Okay, so The Drop, which is directed by Michael R. Roscom, who made Bullhead before. I haven't seen the poster. What is on the poster?
The actors.
Oh, okay, fine. So, it's a very fine cast. It's Tom Hardy, Noomi Rapace, James Gandolfini in, I think, his final role, based on a short story called Animal Rescue by Dennis Lehane, who also writes the script. And I think the original story is from a collection which is called Boston Noir. This is set in Brooklyn. And it basically revolves around a bar called Cousin Marv's. Tom Hardy is the bartender at Cousin Marv's, and Cousin Marv himself is played by James Gandolfini in terrifically gruff fashion. The bar and other bars around are used regularly for gangland drops. This means a place where money is dropped at the end of the day. At the end of the day, criminal activities, one bar gets named as the place where all the money is dropped off. Marv used to own the bar himself, but it is now run by Chechen gangsters. As is said early on in the film, you blinked first and he lost the bar. Here's a clip.
Well, I'm not the guy that wasted his entire life waiting for it to start.
Why did that?
Mm-hmm. At least I had something once. I was respected. I was feared. When I walked into a place, people sat up. They sat up straight. They noticed. What'd you ever have? A bar stool that you put that old biddy at and bought her free drinks, and don't think I don't know that you did it on purpose. That was my stool, and nobody sat on that stool because it was Cousin Marv's stool, and that meant something. That meant something.
But it didn't. Ever. It was just a stool.
You can tell from that the kind of the tone of the film, which is there's an awful it's brooding. There are very few people who do. I mean, James Gandolfini, playing a role I think for which he was well prepared. In the case of Tom Hardy, there are very few actors who do that kind of what we now think of as Brando-esque brooding quite as well, being able to convey so much by saying nothing at all. And it is a film which is in love with its cast, and it's understandable because they're a very, very fine sort of three-hander. The story is that as he's coming home one night, he basically keeps his head down, keeps his nose clean, stays out of the way. And one day he's coming home and he hears a whimpering dog in a dustbin, and he picks the thing up, and it's a puppy dog, but it's a pit bull puppy dog that has been hideously treated, and it's in the dustbin of Noomi Rapace, who is a local neighbour. And they and she says, well, you have to look after the dog. And he says, well, I don't want to. I've never looked after it. I've never had any kids. And so he has to take on the dog. The dog then takes on a sort of symbolic responsibility in the story. That basically it's the thing that opens him out slightly, makes him to start having some kind of relationship with Noomi Rapace, in as much as it's somebody with whom he emotionally connects. There's also an awful lot of stuff about it being a dog's life and about care for dogs. So the dog metaphor is thoroughly used. Now, my problem with the film is this. I think the three performances are very good. I think the central sort of atmospheric moodiness of it is impressive. I don't know that it's much more than that. Certainly in terms of that central narrative conceit about, the lost puppy, the puppy being saved, the dog being part of the family, all that stuff, it's okay. I'm not sure that it sustains an entire movie. What you really get is a bunch of very kind of familiar neo-noir tropes that are efficiently done, and it is very big on mood, it's very big on atmosphere, but not an enormous amount else. Now, I know some critics have gone really nuts about this, and I confess that I struggle to see quite why. I mean, for all its broodingness and its moodiness, and indeed its pedigree, no pun necessarily intended, it is essentially fairly lightweight fare. It's not stuff that you haven't seen before. I think it's worth seeing for the performances because there's a very, very good three-handers. And, it's, James Gandolfini, how wonderful, to see him eating up the screen as he always does. But I think the movie itself is ultimately incidental. Moody, yes. Timeless and classic, I don't think so.